Hi, my name is Kees, and today I'm going to talk about boundaries, how to set boundaries, and why it's relevant to set boundaries. I think boundaries are an important topic for us to talk about, so that was my serious face just now. No, let's talk about boundaries. First of all, why would we even set boundaries? Why are boundaries important? So I think what a lot of people forget is that if you don't set boundaries for yourself and others, a lot of things can happen which you might not like. And setting boundaries for others is a big example, of course, but setting boundaries for yourself is also very important. For example, burnout. One of the things with burnout I've seen over and over and over again are two patterns. In burnout, people are doing something which they don't like, usually their job. Usually they don't like their job. And the second thing is they do not have any boundaries. Because let's say you're doing something and you don't get any energy from it, but you keep sort of losing energy, or you keep losing sleep, or being sad at the job, or just overworked or something like that. The first signal of the body is to sort of become tired. But what a lot of people do is they consume caffeine or sugar, which keeps you artificially in a high state. So people don't notice basically the fact that they're becoming more and more tired. So then what happens is usually they get bad thoughts about things. They sort of start to dislike what they're doing. And if they push through that and don't listen to those signals, what will happen is at some point, if they just keep going, without a boundary and doing something which they don't like, that is one recipe for burnout which really works well. I can tell you, and I've seen that with lots of people I know. So boundaries in this case are very important, because if the boundary is there and you basically listen to yourself, but also think, okay, this is my boundary, I don't want to feel like this, or I shouldn't be, over pushing my body like this, or shouldn't be over pushing my mind like this, then when you know how to recognize that, and you think that is an important thing, right? If you think that how you feel is important in general, then this whole situation or this burnout can be managed, or maybe even avoided. Also, one of the reasons for boundaries is just self-care. It's just making sure you have a good life, right? If you don't have any boundaries, and you just keep doing lots of things without being focused on what you truly like, or what is important to you, or what you care about, or focus on that in your line of work, what happens is that at some point you lose motivation. Setting boundaries, or understanding your own boundaries, your physical boundaries, but also your mental boundaries, things like that, is very important for you to see what works and see what isn't working. So boundaries also have to do with your self-worth. If you feel that you're worth a very good situation, then you sort of have a boundary for a situation which is not good. And this is also conscious. So boundaries are important for our self-worth, but also for self-care, because if we don't have boundaries, we have a big problem. But our energy and our focus also depends on boundaries and feeling ourselves, because this is a very important aspect. I think in, let's say, 90% of the clients I talk with, what I see is what they lack is not a mental self-awareness, but a sort of emotional, physical, so the body and the emotions, the body and the heart, let's say, or even the spirit, body, heart and spirit, are not really optimized. You could say they're not listened to, they're not acknowledged. So we need to acknowledge our emotions, we need to acknowledge how we feel, we need to acknowledge our energy state, and then set boundaries that we don't deplete our energy too much, that we don't go against our heart or our spirit too much, right? We want to go with that. We want to do the things for us that bring us in flow, that's where our talents come out, that make us frictionless, you could say. So what we need to do and what a boundary actually is a decision. A decision is a thought believed in, which makes for a belief, which you then communicate, which is a decision. So making a decision about how much work you're going to do, making a decision about how much time you spend with your family, making a decision on your recovery, on how much sleep you want to get, on making a decision on, let's say if you want to meditate or take a bath or do any type of self-care. At the beginning, you might need a decision or to set a hard boundary if you feel that you've been going so much against your intuition, against your heart, against your spirit, against some of what feels good to you, that you need to set a certain boundary. When you evolve further, at some point, that boundary is so intrinsically there and you look for, let's say, things that help you or things that feel good, then you don't need a certain boundary like that. You don't need a sort of fixed boundary which you communicate to others or you have fixed with yourself. But if you're a person that's kind of boundaryless, or that is just, that is sometimes on the brink of burnout, or that can overwork themselves or overplease others, because this is also related to, burnout and things like that. Needing the need to please others, right? Letting go of that, or understanding that if we want to please others, we first need to please ourselves. We first need to take care of ourselves in a way which helps us, right? So making a decision about some of the key areas where you feel that your heart is saying no, your spirit is saying no, or your body is saying no, or maybe it's saying not so good. Learning to listen to yourself and different aspects of yourself. Not pushing away yourself, but learning to listen is a very important component, because we're all different. I can't say for you how much sleep you need. I can't say for you how much alone time you need away from your partner, your kids, your family, your friends, your work. Just you. I don't know how much recovery you need. This all depends on a wide scale of habits, and I've seen in my life that it tends to differ from phase to phase as well. So I suggest for you to set boundaries in a few areas which you feel that you've been neglecting, and make priority for them. So you're integrating new parts of yourself that you've been neglecting a little bit. And know that boundaries are very important, not only to make sure that you take care of yourself, but also that others acknowledge that you care for yourself. Because one way in which people take advantage of other people is if they see that they don't care for themselves, then some people that probably subconsciously want to exploit others can use that. So we want to not be somebody that doesn't take care of ourselves. We want to be somebody that's proactive. And at the beginning, we might need a crutch, like a boundary, like a set boundary, like a communicated boundary to others. And also, sometimes others need them. I find myself sometimes in situations where the other is not doing something which I like, or the other is crossing a boundary of mine that I perhaps haven't communicated. But when I don't feel good about the situation, I instantly tell other people. Most of the time, I also sometimes mess up with this, but most of the time I communicate it. But my threshold for what is uncomfortable, what doesn't feel good, is very high, right? I have very high standards or self-worth. So if it's going into a direction where I know this doesn't make sense for me or doesn't feel right, I immediately distance myself from that situation, or without judging the other, giving a boundary. So I hope that helps for you, and I hope it helps to talk a little bit about setting boundaries and how to deal with that. Good luck. Again, make sure you care for yourself. Much love to you. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this. Subscribe and like the video if you haven't. Much love to you. Bye, my friend.